Hi guys, welcome to another episode of the T4G Painting Tips videos. Today's a bit of a continuation from a previous episode where I showed you how to sculpt fire, and I thought I'd go on to showing you how to go and paint fire. It's actually been a bit of quite a few months since the last recording, so sorry for the delay on this one, but we're finally back and we're going to crack on. So what I've got here is my painted Beastman. So I've done a relatively quick speed paint job just to get him up to a standard that we can start the fire. As I always say at the start of every episode, there's no particular reason why I've chosen these manufacturers. There's nothing wrong with the equivalent orange that Games Workshop do, or that you know, or the yellow or anything like that. These are just the ones that I happen to have in my collection. Now, the technique I'm going to be using for this fire is, obviously, you've got to think about how fire actually looks. A lot of people paint fire backwards because the way we naturally highlight a model up is from dark to light, with dark in the recesses and white on the highlights, and fire actually is the opposite of that. So what you've got to bear in mind is that fire is kind of white hot or yellow in the very centre, and it comes out to being dark red on the tips of the flames, and actually goes to black where the flames go from being flames to kind of becoming smoke. You've got to bear that in mind when you're painting your model, so I'll sort of go through those stages as I'm painting the model now. Okay, so the first step is to actually base coat the fire in white. We're focusing on the recesses with this stage. As I said before, it's the recesses, the innermost part of the fire, that's actually white. So they're the bits that you want to get right into all the crevices. Okay, that's dry. So the next stage is actually a heavy dry brush with yellow. So I'm going to use the back of my hand as a tissue for this, but you don't want to get deep into the recesses with this, but you do want to basically coat the entire flames in yellow. So the next stage is where we actually want to put a little bit more care and attention into where we're actually putting our highlights. So now you can start picking out the tips of each strand of fire with your orange colour. Now you want to, this is basically highlighting as you would do on a normal model. You're taking care not to go into the recesses. You're only catching the most raised areas of the model. But it feels odd because it's the opposite way around to the way that you would normally highlight. You want a little bit more orange, you know, your darker colour towards the top of the flames, because that's where the fire's getting coolest. So the furthest you are away from the fuel, which is the very top of that brand, the cooler the flames will get, and that means the darker in colour that those flames are going to get. So you can almost go into the recesses at the very top of those flames, where you know the fire's going to be quite cool up there. The next stage is to use some red. I'm using the corn red, and again, you want to be really careful just to get the very raised areas. So you picked out the raised areas before with the orange. Now you want to actually almost draw lines on where you'd put the orange before. Pick out the very tips of those licks of flame. There we go. And the final highlight is to add a little bit of black. And you don't want hardly any paint on your brush for this. You want a very, very subtle. Just pick out the tips at the top. And any licks that are coming off the sides. There we go. Now what I tend to do is to pull all those highlights together is to mix a little bit of your bloodletter glaze with some Lamium medium. We're talking about 50-50 here. with glazing like this, you want to go the subtler the better. You can always do a second glaze, but you can't take any off once it's dry. And I'm just going to glaze all the flame. I'm actually going to go back and carefully pull some of that out of the very recessed bits so we don't lose that white. Like I said, it's important that you keep that subtle so the white comes through. Let's dry that off and we'll see how the final effect looks. Okay, there we go. There's our finished Ungor with his burning brand. So hopefully that technique has helped you out a little bit, giving you some ideas as to how you can go about painting your own fire. What I'm going to do in the next video is actually go on and continue with this model and do some object source lighting around his face and the top of his shoulders, so keep an eye out for that one. And yeah, have fun painting fire.